The past few weeks have seen a bitter fight within the Republican Party over immigration and H-1B visas. The tech wing of the party wants more of them for foreign workers, with Elon Musk the biggest proponent. Steve Bannon and the MAGA base are vehemently opposed. Bannon even referred to Musk as evil Elon. Trump, for his part, has sided this time with Musk. So, Chad, you had a column about this in the Washington Post last week. Should we increase the number of H-1B visas?
I would love to see the number increase, but that's not ever going to happen. So in terms of pragmatic solutions, what I'd really like to see is an elimination of the lottery, which is used to decide who gets to come to the United States or not. For those who don't know, H-1B program is a primary channel that allows foreign workers with like college degrees, many of whom are tech workers, to come and work in the United States. The benefits are very clear. They're about expanding the economic capacity and innovation and technology of the U.S. economy. The reasonable objections to the H-1B program are that some workers, or some firms underpay their H-1B workers. But it turns out that that behavior is facilitated through this random lottery allocation of who gets to hire. And so if we just change that, there's a lot of alternatives to get it to the lottery. If we change that component, a lot of these problems that people have with H-1B program, that goes away.
Okay, Anirban?
Yeah, I think this lottery system was being gamed in the 2020s onwards. There were people who were putting in many applications once it went online. There were consultancies that came in, so there was massive fraud going on. And this the Labor Department stopped, I think, or immigration, by doing that now if you apply, you are the only one person, and that's one person is that application instead of 6 or 7 applications. But I was looking at a lot of data, and I've listened from people from around here that there are weak labor standards for H-1B. You can pay an H-1B lower salary than others, and many have them compared them to kind of an indentured servitude. And in many cases, it gives an opportunity for companies to actually not seriously look for skilled workers, but rather look for workers who are more desperate or would not do anything or would not be actually using their own worker rights to, for example, there was this case where this person was sued because he changed from one H-1B job to the other, right? If you lose in your H-1B, you have to either find another H-1B sponsor for 60 days or you have to leave the country. So there are other employment norms around this that just the lottery system, elimination of the lottery system would not solve.
Can we not fill these jobs with Americans?
Apparently not.
In many cases we can actually, but we don't
when
because
you take
it gives a
Sarah, go ahead.
It requires a labor wage cut. So it's,
well, if you look at the semiconductor industry, right, we have not had a much of an industry here until Biden's investments, which hopefully that'll change. So in other words, we don't have people who are skilled in that industry. So yeah, we do need those workers, right? And that's part of the point, is to get some of these skilled workers in. And the research shows that they allow these firms to expand and grow, as I'm sure Chad has studied, and therefore bring in more native workers, actually. So they've done, the randomness of the program might be a policy problem, but it's been useful for studying the impacts of the program because they're randomly assigned. And so you look at firms that got them and you look at firms that didn't get them. And the firms that got them are doing much better, hiring more, growing. The ones that don't get them sometimes outsource those jobs. So they just, if they can't get the people, then they expand their operations in India or China or elsewhere.
So if we don't have enough people here to fill those jobs, and Vivek Ramaswamy, Chad, suggests the problem is American culture. We don't push our students enough.
Yeah, I mean, goodness, again, historian, you're going to tell me that everybody should be studying STEM. No. So I think both Ramaswamy's wrong, but I also think, I worry that Stephen Miller is going to be in charge of this, and he's the one that tried to stop all immigration for everything. So, and we also should think beyond just the H-1B to the H-2A visas for ag workers and H-2B visas for hospitality workers. Right now, Southern California is going to need thousands and tens of thousands of construction workers to rebuild that, and we don't have them. So 23% of the construction industry is undocumented workers. So I think the amount of workers we're going to need is so large that we're going to need massive influx of people, and I worry that Stephen Miller and the Trump administration is going to cut that off.
In some ways, I think your question is the wrong one. It's not like, are there enough Americans to fill these jobs? That kind of assumes that the number of jobs is fixed. The right way to think about it is, well, this is a scarce resource. It's super productive, and do we want a super productive resource working in the American economy? And generally, yeah. To Anirban's point, so there are these, you call them labor protections. So like one of the things that Trump had suggested is like raising a minimum wage on H-1B workers. That's that kind of thing. That's interesting because that is a solution. It shifts the enormous cost that firms are paying for searching for workers they know they cannot hire into the pockets of the workers themselves. And that would actually work. But you could alternatively do something like an auction for the right to hire an H-1B worker, or increase taxes or fees for hiring an H-1B worker. And by doing that, you make hiring H-1B workers more expensive, but you've now raised revenue that the government can then spend on things like training the domestic workforce to do STEM jobs. And so that's why, you know, especially in the context of this administration, I would encourage them to think more about, either an auction market or taxes and fees as opposed to
if the wage rates for H-1B are raised to make it similar to U.S. workers, I think that will be a